Author and intimacy expert Laura M. Brotherson, host of the Marital Intimacy Show, educates and inspires women to create a mutually fulfilling, intimate, and passionate marital relationship, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually.
Hi there. Welcome to the Marital Intimacy Show, available at themaritalintimacyshow.com. My name is Laura Brotherson. Thanks for tuning in today. Well, we get to talk about sex today, especially some very encouraging stuff to share with you. Very fun. The topic of this episode, number 18, is Stories of Hope, Finding Fulfillment. So the purpose of this episode is to provide hope for those who may wonder if things will ever get better intimately and sexually in their marriage, in their relationship. Many have found their way, and you can too. And I'm going to share some stories today that I hope will inspire you to know that change is possible and to provide a vision for you of what it can look like and what it might look like for you. So these stories come from the many who have written to me or posted on the comments page of our website at strengtheningmarriage.com, sharing how they have found a way out of the sexual desert or the place of sexual disgust or dislike that they've been living in their marriages. This first amazing story came to me some time ago, but it still inspires me every time I think of this woman. Here's what she writes. I am so incredibly pleased to contact you. I am about the shyest woman in the world, yet I really need to let you know how much I appreciate you. I've been married 3 times now, the latest for 6 years. My first and second marriages ended in less than 2 years. Both divorces were over fighting about the lack of sex. My current marriage has been very sexless as well. I've allowed my husband to have sex with me once a month on the average. After each time, I would shower for a long time just to try to feel clean again. Last Thursday, while walking in the park, I noticed a book on the ground right next to a trail. I walked by, but I came back to check on it later. It was still there. Someone walking or riding a bike had dropped it, I guess. It was very much intended for me to read. As I read the title, and They Were Not Ashamed, I was very interested. When I read the next part of the title and it mentioned sex, I came close to dropping it due to being raised in a very strict religion, with my father being the preacher and being taught by my mother that sex was forbidden. I was also taught that if any man touched my body in any way, then I was dirty in the eyes of God. Many sermons were given where my dad boldly told the men in the church to wean themselves from sex of any kind. Even music and dancing was forbidden. He said many times that it was only of the devil, and that even in marriage, sex was bad. I took your book home and started to read. I must tell you, I could not put it down. I read it till late into the night. I read most of it after work the next 2 nights. My husband was out of town at the time for work. For the first time in my life, I finally was convinced that sex was good, and that sex was meant to be enjoyed. For the first time in my life, I knew for sure that sex between my husband and I is not dirty, selfish, carnal. The next day, I asked to get off work at noon so I could go home to greet my husband from his trip. I was so nervous. When he came through the door with his luggage, he was very surprised to see me home so early. I told him I had a surprise for him. Then I did something I had never done in my life. I took his clothes off. He was stunned. Then I shocked him nearly to death. I took my clothes off. Till now, my husband had never seen me naked. I always dressed in the closet or in the bathroom with the door locked. I then slowly kissed him like never before. I even told him many times that I loved him. He stopped me and said he didn't understand what was going on. I told him a little about finding your book and promised to tell him all about it later, which I did. We actually made love for the first time instead of just having sex, something I've never been able to do before. We did it all over the house. We even took a shower together. That was a lot of fun. There are many good things about lovemaking now, but probably the most noticeable for me is I never feel dirty anymore about it. I finally accepted that God wanted me to enjoy it. So I'm now teaching myself to always relax and enjoy this gift from God. My husband actually cried a couple of times. He thanked me for finally seeing sex as a good thing. He then told on himself. He said he had some serious things to tell me. He went into detail about how our marriage was so good and so right, all except for the intimate things. He then explained that he had gone outside of our marriage to be fulfilled in that area. I know he got tired of me, always telling him no. He was honest with me, though, and told me everything. He also found relief by masturbating, looking at porn, and that he had also been having a fling with a gal from work. Thankfully, we've been able to work all of that out now. Thanks to you, I love having sex now. I'd never understood it in the past, but now I know it's a precious gift. We're even considering having children. Thank you so much for opening my eyes to a whole new world. Life has never been this good for me. You have totally changed our lives. Isn't that amazing? I mean, wow. She finds this book in a park somewhere on the other side of this country. It's a pretty dramatic story. Here's the next story of hope for you. It's quite a bit more common story that I've heard often from women. She writes, I wanted to tell you how drastically my marriage has changed over the past year. For years, I had been longing for a change to occur in the intimate aspect of my marriage. I used to be so full of anger and resentment every time my husband and I were intimate. I wanted my husband's sex drive to just disappear. I thought I would be fine to never have sex again. I was never able to see sex as an expression of love. To me, it was just a way of satisfying carnal lust. The whole male sex drive was a source of great anger to me. Since you and your book have helped me so much, I wanted you to know how wonderful things are now. I can't say exactly what has helped me the most, and I don't know when the moment of change actually occurred, but it came, and it has lasted and has made a huge difference to me. I finally feel like sex is the ultimate way for me to express my love to my husband and for me to feel love from him. This is huge for me. I feel like I was given permission to enjoy and to be grateful for my sexuality. I felt like it became okay for me to have sexual fantasies about my husband and for me to be playfully suggestive with him. This was an incredible step for me to realize that this was okay, and actually that the Lord would even be pleased with me. Another thing for me was learning that enjoying intimacy was a choice, and deciding to enjoy it was my choice. My husband asked me not too long ago, what happened? I can just imagine. I told him that I had made the decision to make intimacy an important part of our marriage. So this reminds you to go back and listen to that episode number 17, that desire is a decision, just as a side note there. She goes on, this has empowered me. I have learned what married sex could and should be like. I have even learned to appreciate my husband's sex drive and his masculinity. Also, reading about teaching my children about sex made me change too. I realized that I wanted my daughters to love sex. How could I tell them it was wonderful if I didn't believe that myself? Anyhow, things are great. I am so thankful for you and your book. This newfound intimacy does have its price, though. I have had to work through feeling very vulnerable at times, and my husband has had to reassure me that he won't grow tired of me. Thank you for everything. So obviously the book she's referring to is the book And They Were Not Ashamed, Strengthening Marriage Through Sexual Fulfillment. You know, the fun thing for me is that I know how hard it is for people to go get professional help when it's needed, and often it is. And so my hope was to provide a resource in writing this book that people could read and apply in the privacy of their own home and still find great results. So I'm so thrilled for all those, like these women, these two so far, who have been able to make some pretty dramatic changes in their lives, because I know it's not easy. Okay, so here's the last story I thought I'd share with you today. This story also includes how the husband has been impacted as well. The story begins, "Dear Laura, words are not enough to express what has happened to me and my husband through reading and listening to your book on CD. We came to one of the marriage conferences where you were speaking. During the first presentation of the conference, we went through the syllabus and decided on the classes we wanted to take. We came across your class, and I said to my husband, let's go to this one. Unbeknownst to me until later, my husband was leaping with joy inside because he wanted to go to your class, but was reluctant to say so first. After your presentation, we decided to buy your book and also the book on CD, and we agreed to read it together. Well, we started to read it and got to chapter 2, which I absolutely love, filled with affirming statements about sex and marriage. My husband loves that chapter too. The next day, I had to read more of the book while my husband went to work. He came home and was pleasantly surprised that I hadn't waited for him to read the book. We went ahead and started reading the book again together, although I had already read the chapters we went over. What an eye-opening revelation it's been. We were able to talk about our differences as a man and woman, and likes and dislikes concerning sexual intimacy and everything in between, like it was the most natural thing in the world. It was the most awesome experience. Chapter 2 in your book is the most coolest thing ever that I and my husband have ever read. I absolutely love it. My husband and I have a renewed, vitalized affection for each other that is unbelievable, and we are only on chapter 7 of the book. My husband told me that the next morning after reading with me that night, he got down on his knees and thanked God for letting him feel like he was no longer this loathsome male sex fiend that he thought he might be. He had felt this way for many years. He was so relieved to realize that most other men are just like him, and it is normal and natural to be the way they are. He wept with relief and joy. He knew also that I finally understood him too. I myself am so excited about what I have learned. I can now understand why my husband is the way he is, and it's an okay thing. In fact, it's a wonderful thing. We are open and honest and do not have the least degree of animosity or embarrassment or ridicule or any bad feelings at all between us when we discuss what we read in the book. It's just honest, loving feelings of understanding and hope for a better life together. We are so grateful to you. Please also tell your husband thank you from us both for letting you be so candid and personable and for sharing your time and effort with us. I know going to that conference was an answer to our prayers. Well, there you have it. I hope these stories of hope give you a little vision of what can come from your efforts to strengthen your marriage sexually. I hope this gives you a glimpse into how what may seem like a miracle could actually come about for you. I hope these stories can sustain you as you travel down that difficult road of personal growth. It's not easy, but it's so worth it. I hope you'll please share these stories with others who might also want to strengthen their marriages intimately. We welcome your thoughts at laura@strengtheningmarriage.com, or you can post your thoughts on the Marital Intimacy Show blog or the Marital Intimacy Show Facebook page. You can read more of these stories at strengtheningmarriage.com on the comments page. And you could also post your own story there as well, even if you haven't yet arrived at your happy ending. This has been episode number 18, Stories of Hope, Finding Fulfillment, on the Marital Intimacy Show with Laura M. Brotherson. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll be back soon with more great insights for strengthening your marriage intimately. Remember, you can always check in at our website, strengtheningmarriage.com, to learn more. And I encourage you to read the book, And They Were Not Ashamed, Strengthening Marriage Through Sexual Fulfillment, if you have not done so already, so that you too may be better able to create your own story of hope in finding mutual fulfillment in your marriage. So, until next time, this is Laura Brotherson with the Marital Intimacy Show. Have a great day, and make yours a great marriage.